Hey, everyone.
Hey, Peter Parker. You got something for me?
I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get this.
Okay, send out the countdown clock. And here we go. 30 seconds.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24. 23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17.
16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9.
8.
7.
6.
5. 4. 3. 2. 1.
Hi.
Hi.
So, welcome to Secrets of Surviving Alienation. We should go back to the number 30 because it is projected that 30% of targeted parents, according to the National Alliance for Targeted Parents, commit suicide over the devastating effects of parental alienation and the trauma of family courts. It is happening worldwide. It is an epidemic. It is tragic. And every day, parents are taking their lives. The anguish, the pain, the unnecessariness of it all. It's just a waste. Surviving is paramount. We are warriors, we are crusaders, and we are here to help you. Secrets to Surviving Alienation is joined today by a genuine crusade hero. He joins us from Swansea in the United Kingdom. He is the founder of the National Alliance for, I have to get the titles correct because I want to do this justice. Andrew Teague is joining us today as the founding president of National Association of Alienated Parents, an alternative way of describing targeted parents. He joins us now from his headquarters in the United Kingdom. Sir, first of all, what an honor it is to speak with you. I follow your work and your courageousness in this crusade is noble. It is perhaps one of the most noble efforts I have seen in recent memory. And for that, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you first of all for having me, and secondly, it's something I've been a vow I made about 5 years ago to continue to fight for the children more than anything that go through this, but obviously supporting and helping the parents, including the dads, mums, and even grandparents and family members.
Will you take us back to the moment in time before you knew this world existed?
Oh, that would have been about 5 years ago. Well, over 5 years ago now, when I got drawn into this. What I seen was that a lot of parents were from other groups. My ex did this, my ex did that, and it wasn't much about the children. And that's when I thought, something needs to happen for the children out there, as well as the parents. And I think that's the highlight of it for me, when I realized that it was happening all over the world as well. I started firstly with DADS, which is Dads Against Double Standards, and then also NAP as well, and out campaigning for kids walking the streets, climbing the mountains, walking the countryside. Pretty much walked over 2,400 miles, and I've climbed probably 4 or 5 times the height of Everest with the mountains that I've climbed all over the UK and into Europe.
Will you talk about how your journey quite literally became the representational journey of every parent who is going through this? What about your inspiration for doing this indicated that this was what you had to do?
I think it's in my life, because I went through separation years and years ago. But I've always believed that I went through the in the first stages in the 90s, because I was also involved with the child abuse sex scandal in North Wales years ago. And so in the 90s, I was very suicidal, which led me to being someone who stands up for other people. But I think the journey for me was ultimately the family courts and the draconian way that they work, and how horrendous it is going through the family courts as an absent parent. And I think that's the main thing that kept me going, and dealing with so many parents who are suicidal or even attempted suicide. The amount of parents we've come across along the way that have taken their lives. And I say parents because we have, although it's a lot of fathers, there have been mothers as well along them, and it's very, very difficult to keep track of them, because there is no statistics in the family courts on how many, and you're in the UK, how many actually take their lives. If a parent takes their lives, then the court case is vacated. That's the position it is over here. There's no accountability, no transparency, nothing.
It's the ultimate winner take all.
No, absolutely. When you're the absent parent, you are from the, where I've always stated is, from before you enter into the family court, so when you're going to start in the process, the controlling parent is already building their alliance. They're already getting the school involved. They're already getting the social services involved. They're already getting these people behind them. And anybody that's not in their circle are thrown out, blocked, deleted out of the, or stuck on the sidelines. So they build their alliance. So by the time you get into the family courts, you're on the back foot straight away. And it is the most draconian system I've ever come across in my life. The whole system, process, and methodology needs to completely change.
According to the National Alliance for Targeted Parents, up to 30% of parents going through this process are successful in a suicide. That's a staggering number.
They really, if I had to make a guess over here in the UK, I would probably say that there is certainly somewhere in that region here as well. Absolutely.
This is not 3% or 5%. This is not a rare instance. Will you talk about the fact that it is pervasive? If 30% of people were dying from COVID, it would be talked about quite differently.
Yes.
It's almost impossible for us to wrap our minds around that statistic.
Yeah, and the sad thing of it all is we only get to find out a lot of them through social media. Is a lot of the way, or I get people that have parents or even family members that have contacted me due to their children, because that's what they are. If a parent of someone who's taken their life, as far as they're concerned, that's their child has taken their life. It leaves the children left behind. It leaves the pain that's left behind. When someone takes their life, that pain carries on within others. It's sadly one of the horrendous things that I always look at with this is children, when they grow up and they find out that their parent have taken their life through parental alienation, have that tendency to kind of blame themselves for it, because they are the parent, they are the person that's alienated, they're that child that's alienated that parent, if you know what I mean. And it's absolutely, you know, as you said with COVID, but it's, if you look at anything where there's deaths involved, for example, when we look at the forces, when they come back from tours and they've seen some horrendous things and they have the PTSD and they take their lives, then people not talked about enough, but it is talked about when it comes to this. And it's this similar thing that a lot of these parents are going through post-traumatic stress disorder. They are going through trauma. They are going through depression. They are going through so many things that normal people, you know, we are normal people. Parents They are simply normal people that go through the changes in their life.
Extraordinary circumstances. We're speaking with Andrew Teague. He's the founder of the National Association of Alienated Parents. He's speaking with us from the United Kingdom, from Swansea in the UK. The name of this show is Secrets to Surviving Alienation. I almost think we can leave the word alienation out. We know we're here. What can we say to people to help them survive? What are some of the things that you have found are essential to surviving this experience?
Oh, one of the primary things I think is for people to reach out. And if people know someone that knows someone that's going through it, to get them help and support within groups. Because there's nobody else out there who wants to bother. There isn't no one. If it wasn't for the self groups that we have, the groups that we have running, there would be far more. I know that in the last 4 or 5 years, there have probably been over 300 poor souls that we have kept here alive that would have probably lost a third of them to suicide. It's just... Well, of course, there is the stigma around it as well. You know, men are trained with mental health as well. And what I find is, in the UK anyway, is there's 65% of women are more likely to come across and talk about mental health issues, whereas men are less. So that's where you have the tendency to have more men than women that take their lives. You know, we hear about here in the UK, 84 men every week taking their lives, but we don't hear about the almost 30 women as well. You know, a lot of these are linked with, not a lot, I'd say a percentage of these are linked with family courts as well, because I deal with women that have taken their lives. We have had women that have taken their lives. We've even had grandparents that are suicidal. And that's how bad and that's how devastating effect it has on humans. That's what we are.
Would you talk about your crusades? You hike the mountains, you carry a cross.
Yeah.
You represent the burden of the pain of each parent in this effort. Would you talk about how that came to be and what it is you do for people who haven't discovered you yet?
We've found that it's been different ideas all the way along the line. Like I've climbed the mountains with balloons, I've climbed the mountains, I've walked the streets, I've walked through storms, climbed the mountains through storms. The cross was an idea by one of my members after we had the idea, because we have a tree as well with all the children's names on. It's called the Heart of Hope Family Tree, and that has 600 or 700 names in it. We've been having that going for quite some time now. And we also have the cross, which has the leaves on then, which is the family fight the cross we bear, because that's what the parents have to bear. That's the cross they have to bear. And so that's me carrying them parents all over the place. But we also have the shirt off our back, which has over 2,000 names on it. And some of them have passed away, which have done protests with the shirt off our back outside, or 1890 courthouses throughout the UK and through Europe as well.
It's difficult to visualize the scope of the battlefield that we're describing. Family courts.
Sorry.
But that's the battlefield is the family court, but the skirmishes take place in homes all over the world. Talk about both the battlefield and the sites of these.
Yeah, okay. If you talk about the family courts, I can talk a lot about the family courts here in the UK, and also Southern Ireland, which is a different part. That's more Europe than it is the UK. And of course, one of the things we've come across is the draconian way that they work. And it is absolutely a battlefield. And sometimes parents go in there and get knocked down. There may be one time where they may come across thinking it's going further forward, then get knocked down again. And this is what ends up leaving the parents deflated when you have the likes of lawyers we think are just clearly in it just to pick the paycheck up. Judges listen to the likes of the child agencies, which are, can't tell, not fit for purpose, that's for damn sure. But then we look at the parents as far as the homes are concerned when they're out of the family courts. And I can give examples of this with my child, where my child actually thought it was the judge that was stopping me from seeing her, from having contact with her, which wasn't true. That was the fact of that is what is put into our child by the mother. Oh, it's not my fault, it's the court's fault. And so there's so much happens behind the scenes with the parents as well that tend to end up blaming the family courts. That's why we brought the educational DVD out, which is designed to help schools to not get triangulated into it, because schools can very, very easily get triangulated into it. First of all, you'll have the controlling parent. They will first of all get the social services involved. They'll make the allegation, social services. Then they drag the schools into it. They don't want the other parent going to the school. So straight away, the child is starting to see that my dad or my mum must be a bad person because the social worker's on my mommy's side, the social worker's on my daddy's side. And then the school automatically align as well, because that's what they think they're doing by safeguarding the children, when actually what they're doing is helping to progress the alienation or the non-accidental psychological injury that's happening to the children.
Where would you get that educational DVD?
It's on YouTube anyway. I can send the link over to as soon as I've finished here anyway. It's called the Parental Alienation, the Phenomenon Explained, and it's basically highlighting how some schools knowingly and some schools unknowingly. It's surprising that some schools realize, but when you have, for example, parents that are not allowed to go to concerts or schools, sports days or events at school because the schools have been told to stop them, that's a form of them aligning with the bad parent, with the controlling parent, because that's what they do, their alliance.
Is this because the courts tell the school you have to do this?
No, that's the worst part about the family courts in this country is the court orders very seldomly reach the family courts to the schools to let them know that the children are allowed to see the other parent. What happens in the beginning is the safeguarding of the children comes into play first. So foremost, if allegations have been made and they've not been founded or anything else, straight away the social services will get involved. They will then contact the school. There will be meetings there, and before you know it, even though nobody has said that they can't go to concerts and they can't go to anything else, this is what tends to happen, which automatically takes away the parents' responsibility, the PR, which in this country is parental responsibility.
Please help us share and disseminate 2 or 3 of the secrets that helped you survive that we can all hold up as examples to get through this.
Okay, family courts. Number one, the first thing there was I looked at it, I had to climb out of it emotionally and go into it using my head, I suppose. But one of the things that few of the things that I found in there was everything that is put in your way is a barrier, and you have to remove that barrier, and you have to research. Don't expect anybody else to do it. Don't trust your lawyers to do it. Don't trust anybody else to do it. When they say knowledge is power, that's exactly what it is in the family courts. When they'd, for example, when they'd say to me, you lack the insight, when I'm talking to them and telling them what I knew, they certainly had to remove that. When they turn around and said there's the risk of emotional harm, I stated, what about the emotional harm that's happening with our child not having contact with the father? Not me having contact with the child not having contact with the father. So that removed another barrier, and more barriers came in and more barriers are removed, including the wet in the bed, which is the fabrication from the fabrication tree, the so many different ones there. There's the night terrors, sleeping disorders, eating disorders. All of a sudden, these children have this because they're having contact, which is just the controlling parents where you're trying to still keep hold. If things start to fall down, they will clutch at anything to keep hold. So the most important thing there is research.
Andrew, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have a couple of seconds lag between the two time zones. Would you talk about what happens when the alienating parent claims the child is thriving without contact from the other parent?
What do you mean with the thriving with the other? Crossing the transition bridge, is it?
No, thriving.
Or thriving.
See, the child will thrive without the other parent in the picture.
Oh yeah, well that's the holy good, the holy bad. That is the parent is the child, the controlling parent holds the I hate to use the term, but it is pretty much like Stockholm syndrome, captive, and where they teach the child, and the child begin to think that parent is the superhero, is the greatest thing on the face of the planet, and behind that pathological enmeshment, that's not really the case. The other parent is the only bad. They are the evil. They are the nasty ones. They are the ones that make them do things that they don't want to do, or they are the ones that shout at them, or they are the ones that scorn them when this has not really happened. So they do. I wouldn't say it's emotional, because it is psychological injury that's happening to the children that's going through any forms of parental alienation, or any forms of where the children are being segregated and not allowed any form of good contact with the other parent. And that's why the transition between two homes, when they are back in contact, is paramount that works. Otherwise, the problems continue. A child coming from one home to the other needs to be able to go back to the other, back and forth in the safest, happiest way possible, which took a long time with our child to get through. But now she whistles around the house, she sings around the house, she's happy to discuss both parents, and she's happy crossing the transition bridge. But that's because I've spent a lot of time helping her as well.
You're an incredibly strong person today. Your journey started 5 years ago. What were the other secrets that you can share with us that helped you survive?
I think the overwhelming support of people out there as well, because, you know, and I mean, like, the general public, when you talk to people about it, and when they say, you know, it's great what you're doing, I think in the memberships, when you're in the groups, and the way that they support each other as well, is phenomenal. It really is. And when you have a good team behind you with admins that help as well, it's really, really important for myself, for me to be able to help other people, as many as we can. We know we lose people along the way. We know we can't be there for everybody, and it's sad, because everyone that passes by, there are children that are left with the brunt end of it, feeling the worst from it, and they'll grow up to feel worse, and they'll grow up to have that impact on them and their mental health. And we know from years, especially from America, that the after effects of cases with parental alienation, there is the self-harm, and there is the suicide as well, and there is the drug and alcohol abuse, and so many other things, negative things that we don't want the children to go through. So it's kind of the court shooting the kids in the foot as well, by not taking the time to deal with things now. That's why we have the education DVD. That's why we are doing the other two, which is, one is a child-friendly one, and as soon as they are out, the sooner the better, to be honest with you, so children can learn to understand things as well, and realize that it's okay to love the absent. And schools should be promoting that as well. They should be promoting it is okay for you to love the absent, rather than no discussion about the absent at all, absent parent. There is nothing there.
What happens, Andrew, in that instance when the parent who is making the alienation has to respond? How harmful is it to the child when they come home with the information that it's okay to love the absent parent? What happens that you've heard about?
Well, I deal with a lot of parents. I also help parents in family court, so I'm well aware of what happens with the transition of foster homes. And examples of this is children still feel that they're not allowed to have a good time at the parents. And I use one in particular because it always sticks in my mind because it's an impacting one. It's where a child was bullying the younger child, being a bit boisterous and swearing. So the father put some salt on the child's tongue for swearing. But by the time the child had gone home, it was crying buckets and poured a bucket full of salt down. So you can see what the child has had to do from something that was very minor to something that is much bigger as far as the other parent, because the child believes that his mother doesn't want him to have a good time. Well, you can go to you're going to your dad's, but you don't have a good time. The child actually impacts on the child. The child goes back thinking, right, well, I can't go back now, transition from the one to the other, and not say something bad. Instead of going home and saying, I had a great time at my dad's, we did this, we did that, oh, that's great. Instead, that child is going back with the adverse effect of that and putting negatives, placing negatives there, even though the child has had a fantastic time at the other parents.
Andrew?
Yeah.
If the ambition of the alienating parent is to be in complete control, creating this conflict for the child puts the alienating parent in the position of having to then say, we cannot co-parent because that back and forth is too traumatic for the child. The child is better off with just one household, with just one parent, and that parent is me. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that if the only contact when there are two parents involved is conflict, then they have the motivation to create conflict, because the reward for creating conflict is they end up with the winner take all. Would you talk about that, please?
Oh, I certainly can, yes, because this is one of the things that we highlight here at the moment. One of the things that will be highlighting here in the UK. We have things over here called Kafkas and guardian lawyers, and sadly, when they do come to a position after a long period of time, 2 or 3 years, and they see that the child is going through the psychological injury, the psychological damage that's happening to them, the manipulation, they tend to shrug their shoulders and say, well, it's too emotionally impacting to remove the child from where it is. In other words, they know that the conflict is still there. If that conflict, the implacable hostility is still there with that parent, then there is no way, it is very difficult for that child to ever be able to move forward. In some cases, luckily with myself and my ex, we don't co-parent, we separate parent. We're called separate parent, and that is a clear understanding from the judges. How I bring my child is in my horse. How she brings it up is her business. That's the bottom line. But she was also instructed after breaking 14 court orders that the next time I go to court, it would be for residency. So I think that little threat of the residency change made a certain difference with my ex, and recent case law in the UK showed that certainly did with another parent as well. But we know that some parents are never, ever, ever going to change because it's an historic thing that has happened from the drama that they've learned. They've been unable to compartmentalize what has happened in their life, so they've learned it from their parents and it's gone on to these parents, and that's why we fight now. So our children never have to, and our children's children never have to stop, to eradicate the problems that are happening from the family courts. I mean, let's be realistic. If the family courts didn't allow the things to happen, and they didn't frown upon it, but certainly did something about it, then the controlling parents wouldn't be using the family courts and getting away with it.
We have 1 minute left. What is one actionable thing that you can share with us to help a parent survive today?
Never give up is one thing I would absolutely turn around and say, because regret would chew you up. Keep going and look. And there are groups out there. There are many groups. There are many genuine people out there fighting this, and ask questions. One of the most important things to do is ask questions. That's how you get the knowledge. That's how you get to understand things. And remember, they are children. They cannot fight. So you have to. You fight for what your children want. And I certainly wouldn't go by what any other parents, any controlling parent says. Deep down inside, them children want the loving parent.
Andrew Teague, founder of the National Association of Alienated Parents, thank you so very much for your crusade. For more information, where can people go?
Well, over here in the UK, we have the Samaritans, we have Citizens Advice Bureau. We do certainly have some places, some family courts have places there. There are Mackenzie Friends. There are ourselves. There are plenty of groups out there that are more than happy to help and support. Just search.
Never give up.
Never give up. Absolutely never give up. Never, ever.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that was interesting.
He's a true warrior, a true crusader. For more information, alienatedparents.org.uk, or you can go to Facebook, NAAP, National Association of Alienated Parents 2017.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Never give up.
Maybe our only option.
No, never give up, never surrender.
That's awesome.
I had to do that. It was a very interesting show, and he was very informative. And I hope the best for all the people across the pond and around the world, basically.
The breakthrough is there. We have to make it.
Oh. Definitely appreciate everybody coming on and talking, and we hope to see you guys again.